Welcome to Cards of Insight, where we discuss all things tarot. And I'm Greg, and I live in London.
Anna here, joining you all the way from sunny Brazil.
Susan here. I'm here in Canada.
And Pavlina, greetings from London, UK.
And we are all tarot readers.
Valentine's Day is close by. It's around the corner. I'm sure everybody will have a many Valentine's reading, especially for single people.
I get confused over Valentine's because you have to ask what the person really wants. They speak about my twin flame, they say a lot, or trying to get back with ex-partners, or even when it comes to a new partner. And
What's the top ask question, all of you?
When will I find my soulmate? That to me is, I honest to God, you guys, I dread that question because I look at it, there's more than one person in a person's life. And when they come in and they want the soulmate, like Greg was saying, it's all about expectations. So it's like trying to guide them from that question to really exploring more about what they're really looking for versus focusing on that particular person.
I agree with you. Sometimes when they say soulmate, they don't have a clear idea. I think that's what you said. What a soulmate is for them. What is it that they're looking for in a partner? And I think we can help them there. I think we can, through the cards, asking questions and see what is it that you want in your life? What is it that makes you happy? What is it that you need? Not only want, but what is it that you need? And then form the idea of what is, because soulmate is a very nice word, but it's a bit not flaky, but it's a bit vague for many people. They say this is the Prince Charming, or for people who ask me about soulmates, they usually don't go and check what a soulmate on Google. This is what I'm looking for. For each person, it will be somebody different. Their idea of soulmate is the perfect person who will make you happy forevermore. Yes.
Yeah.
To me, the soulmate is the person that they're never going to divorce, they're never going to break up with, they're never they're not going to be an ex in their life. So then they would have to start that search all over again. And and to be fair, I think we've all been there where you date someone or whatever, and then it doesn't work out. And now you're thinking, oh my God, now I'm starting all over again. Oh, I'm now going to go to my tarot reader and try and shorten that list down so I'm not hunting through 100 people. That's what I feel when you say soulmate. That's why that word is so key, is finding the one so I don't have to go through the circus of pile of people. So I understand like Anna's questions of like breaking it down and getting them to really open up and think about, okay, who really suitable for me? So that helps them to understand why that previous person, if there is one, didn't work, because they had their expectation of looking at that person and honestly not thinking about who they were, but they were narrowing it into, this is what I want, but without realizing, well, did you actually talk to the person, or you just looked at him and they're the one? That's what I feel like. You go into like going into a supermarket and grabbing those apples, right? You look on the surface of it, but you don't look on the inside of it, right? And the only way you look on the inside is you.
You mentioned the one. I think this is another very dangerous expression, because if you have the one and the one doesn't work, then your fate is just to die single because the one didn't work out. So I think if you investigate what the person is really wanting and what the person needs from a relationship, you may have many ones, right? But you can have an idea of, where to look for a partner that suits you best, that you feel attracted to, that has, the same ideas, the same objectives. Yeah, I think bringing agency to the person is really important. I think many clients don't like to feel that they can go out and do things for themselves. Sometimes they prefer the cars to look nice. And so, you're going to find someone around the corner. It may happen. So, yeah.
Can I ask a question? All this effort that this person's doing and going to see tarot cards for this soulmate, is it actually worth chasing the soulmate and actually pursuing a soulmate? Is it actually worth it? Does the soulmate actually exist?
Well,
That's
this person needs a companion, needs a partner, right? And looking for a companion is worth it. Yeah, of course it is. They need somebody. That's why I don't like the word soulmate, because it implies perfection. So we have to kind of bring it to earth a little bit. Well, that's what I feel. I mean,
And and by bringing it to earth, you're allowing giving that person to say, give them permission to go out and have fun and involved in this search. Whether they meet them in a grocery store, or they meet them at a local bar, or they meet them with a group of friends, but it's not this laser vision of looking at each single solitary man or woman as the one, but giving them permission to have their eyes more open. And I think that's what tarot reading, by the questions that we explore with them, will help them to see things that way.
Many people ask, will I meet the next soulmate next summer? But then you ask them, okay, so what are you doing for that? Like, are you doing some activities or actions? And then you realize they just sit home and thinking the Prince Charming or Princess Charming will ring their doorbell. They know where they are. They know their address, and they don't want to do anything. They just have a
Like the
desire.
mailman.
Can I ask a question? They want to meet their soulmate next summer. What if their soulmate next summer is on a holiday vacation and nowhere to be seen? How are they going to meet their soulmate in summer? I don't know. Soulmate.
Well, and that depends. Like, I could go to Mexico and there's summer, right? I'm in Canada, okay, understanding that part. I'm not in Rio de Janeiro there. But it's to explore with that person. Yeah, like you're not going to meet the person in a vacuum. You have to be out there to be meetable.
you have to make an
And
effort.
so, I mean,
yeah, you have to make an
make
effort.
an
You have
effort.
to both be in the same place at the same time.
Yeah, yeah.
And I think if the person puts a cap on it, it's like, well, maybe and we do the reading and it says, well, no, you're not going to meet them in the summer, and of course they're broken. But it's like, okay, why are we narrowing it down to the summer? What has summer got to be the cap?
Yeah, the deadline for love.
A deadline where they could literally meet them September 1st after our Canadian summer.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah. Do you get as well lots of questions about ex-partners and ex-lovers, ex-crushes or crushes, something like that? Do you get questions when is he coming back or she's coming back to my life?
Yes, that's a favorite.
Yes,
Because they're not, well, obviously, if they're asking that question, they're not completely finished or complete with that person, and they have this great hope that things could get back. And it'll be like exploring, okay, this is where you have to explore, okay, the other person, and even if it's feasible for that to happen and take place.
How do you approach it, Anna, if somebody asks you about ex?
I would first want to investigate with the person, what is it about the ex that keeps them still, energetically connected. Because as Susan said, and I agree completely, it hasn't ended yet for that person. Maybe for the ex, yes, it's he's dying, he went on with his life, but with the person asking, there's something that keeps this person connected to the ex. First, you have to investigate what it is. Then, after you get that, you have to also ask the cards why it ended, because it ended for a reason. And if you try it again, you can also ask the cards, if you try it again, what are the chances of it ending differently? Obviously, investigating on the X, which is the third party involvement that some readers refuse to read. I don't think it's bad. The intention is just to help a person see it from two different perspectives, their perspective and the perspective of the X.
Yeah.
And this, I think, because there was an involvement, is one of the readings that you have to be extremely tactful with. You have to be very, very sensitive to things that you see in the cards, because what if this person is still very connected to the ex and it shows that the ex is happy as he can be, that it's paper. You cannot simply tell the person, oh, he couldn't be happier. He couldn't be happier. No. You have to approach it in a different way, I think, and with a lot of tact and also give tools to this person to move on. It wouldn't work out the way you want it to work out. It might even be good because it's the second trial.
Many
So,
Or they could be involved with someone else.
yeah, that too.
many times I
Mm,
can
that's
see
the
they are
thing.
looking for closure of the
Because
relationship.
because
Mhm,
normally if
yeah.
somebody asks me that, because what I try to do is I try to help people, right? That is my main objective morally and
Mhm.
ethically. So sometimes I have to think what is the best questions to ask. Now, if they want to go back with an X, straight away there's an X there. So there's an X for a reason. So did it come from both of them or the other one? So now if they want to go back with their X, does the X like them and want to come back? And if so, how's it going to work? Or if they want to come back, are they with another person, another partner? Or are they in another place? So for me, like Anna, you have to dig a lot. You have to do quite a lot of digging. So I would probably need about 3 questions. How are they going to get on? Does he still like her? And how it will work when they come back with her. And like Anna says, what happened in the past as well. And what's the reason? Like who broke up with who type of thing. And for what reason? And then maybe her intentions are good. Then you have to start digging on his side. Well, why doesn't he like her? For what reason? And it's so I actually think it's not as simple as it seems.
Oh no, it's
So
one of the
yeah.
most complex readings, I think, X's.
Yeah.
Like, it's
And you want
there's
to
a
try and
lot
help
of
the
baggage.
person. So you
Yeah.
don't want to say, oh, the guy likes you, but you'll never get him because he's got a new girlfriend and she knows karate, you know. Um, you know. So
The other
it's complicated, you know. Yeah.
And the other thing, when we're talking X, it's like, okay, was this 3 years ago, 3 months ago, 2 weeks
Mhm.
ago? It makes a difference
Oh,
because
yeah.
that tells you energetically how tied they are to that person. Because I mean, if we're talking like 6 months, it's like, well, and they haven't seen anything of that person. Well, as time is spent, but they're still itching to know. Obviously, that person maybe they dated for 3 years. Who knows? But that's why they're reconnected. But if they've been, if it's 2 weeks ago, well, that's to me like a wild card. I mean, they could reconnect in a minute if it came down to it,
Yeah,
depending
it's
on the
just a break,
argument.
not a
Yeah.
breakup. Yeah. Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah. 3 years ago, then it's like, okay, well, people's lives have changed, especially, and that, not to say I wouldn't read on it, but if they're just looking, to me, then they're looking for closure. They just want to close that book up and move on to the next one.
Yeah. I had a a person asking me why I can't forget about my ex, and timeline was 10 years. So obviously, of course, I asked the question as well. I ask why she can't let go the person. because it seems like the person given her everything what she wants, they're doing tick marks except staying with her, right? So you can see his perspective on her and help her to move on.
Yeah. And one thing that occurred to me that sometimes is important in long times like that, 10 years, 15 years, 30 years. What worked for you when you were 17 may not work for you when you're 30. So even if you actually meet again and resume the relationship, which is highly unlikely, it may not work. It's like visiting a place of your childhood and not feeling the same, motivation or the same fantasy going on because ages are different, your experience is different. And I was thinking about people who have kids and are asking about their exes. I mean, there's just so much that goes on when time passes that you have to investigate that the person now and the person then, and how that change would interfere in the success or failure.
And definitely exploring how they're feeling or what their expectations are, because obviously that's changed probably over time as well.
Yeah. Mhm.
And after all those heavy debates is how do we ask the question and how do we lay the cards out? So that's part 2. So that's only half the problem. And that's the biggest problem. I think we need to actually really ask what's the correct question? What do they really want? And how can we actually help them? And I think once we can establish that and make it quite clear, then we have to concentrate on the actual question.
Well, and I have done this. I've got, various books or whatever. And when I was new to tarot, I would be looking in the books to find the spread to answer all of my questions that we're obviously asking here. So I don't know what the rest of you are like. Do you have a spread that you use that's, something that you use all the time? Or do you do freelance, and meaning that you assign what your questions are?
I don't have a spread. I have questions that I ask as I analyze, each individual case. But I do have 5 points that are usually asked. One is, what do you want? What is it that you want? The second one, what is it that you need? They may not match. Okay. The other one is how you present yourself to potential partners. Because maybe it's just a question of, how your image is seen by others. Maybe the person is presenting themselves as somebody who doesn't want relationships. And then, it's a miscommunication. They're reading the person wrong. The other one is strengths to explore. I mean, what are points that you have that you should explore? I mean, aspects of you that you should explore. And the most difficult one are challenges that you may have to face. And that is, I don't know, that's the snake's nest. It's just, it's a complicated one because it might be, fear. A person may be shy. It's excessively shy. The person may have traumas from the past as far as relationships are concerned. It's really huge. So this last one, I would really be careful about, unless the person is, knows you a lot and is willing to really investigate. Then I would go over that because sometimes it's just a question of how the person feels about relationships in general. They may have had a horrible experience in their childhood, and now things just don't work.
Then not pick that card, depending on the person and the person in front. I mean, they're in front of you.
Yeah.
So would you just not do that card?
Well, it may show, well, I'm reading on, the strengths and how you present yourself. I mean, that may give you an indication. I mean, if the person presents themselves as super shy, doesn't go out or anything, but they want to meet a lot of people, they want to meet many, many people as much as they can. There's a conflict here. And this conflict comes from somewhere. So I might get a card to investigate on what that is. But you see, I'm not a psychologist. I just need to give the person tools to try and overcome some barriers, some obstacles that they have. But yeah, I may get a card, but this has to be done really carefully. It's another one that you have to, step really lightly because you may touch on very delicate issues.
You know, when you go into detail like that, you would need time for that. That
Oh yeah,
was quite a
absolutely.
lengthy reading. For a short one, I'll take 3 cards, and the card on the left represents how the querent, the person asking the question, feels about the person that they in. The card in the middle shows how they're going to get on compatibility, sort of meeting in the middle. And then the card on the right is the partner. And then you can sort of see how this one feels about that card on their end and how that card feels about that card on their end. And then you can see in the middle the compatibility. So you'll see an incompatibility in the middle, and then you will see if it's coming from this side or that side. And then you know where the issue is him or her or her or him or whatever. That's what I would do.
And you could pull other cards, correct?
Yeah, it depends how many questions you got.
And
Yeah,
Greg,
I
you
wanna
could
dig a little
pull,
bit deeper, yeah,
cards to
yeah.
explain those cards. Yeah.
Yeah, of course, yeah. Or sometimes you can see it from both sides. And it's like, well, they're both as bad as each other. Let's get on with it, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so what?
How would you handle, and this is a curiosity of mine, how would you handle the denial? I have a hard time doing that.
Yeah, I once had that situation, and the person that was asking the question, I really want to help them. And sometimes, if you tell them the truth that they've got a bad attitude, it's not going to help them. So, and I feel guilty about it because I feel like I'm lying. And I had to say to this person, I think your approach to the other person, maybe you need to try a different technique because your approach to them is
Mhm.
maybe making them feel a little bit nervous or scared. Their way they're approaching the relationship. So how the way I explained it was like how you visualize somebody. So if I want a first date and I walk in there like a small, you're gonna think, oh, what he's an aggressive person. But so I was saying more, blaming the approach instead of the person's got a bad, stinky attitude. So that's how I got it, and I felt a bit bad. I felt like I was lying, but I didn't want to upset the person. There's people that are a lot better at it than me, but personally, I do struggle with that. Yeah.
Could you have read on expectations, that person's expectations to help you help for them to see what's their expectations may be too high or to help I don't know. I'm just trying to feel like how
No,
to best.
what it was is I was looking at the reading, and he was put off by her. So I didn't pick up on any expectations. Because I was asking why does he not like her, and because he doesn't like her stinky attitude. I didn't really look at expectations. I didn't ask. So yeah, that particular time I didn't ask on expect. I could clearly see. I mean, if I'd have asked more and it was a longer reading, then perhaps. But I wouldn't have gone that way because I don't want to upset her. I would have rather.
Maybe what you said was true though, right? Because you said, the strategy, if he didn't like her stinky attitude, as you put it, if she changed her strategy, maybe she would, get a chance because it was her attitude.
Yeah.
It was a way of approaching him, right? You can say it to her, maybe.
Is it like an entitled type of attitude?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
yeah. I don't think you lied. You just put it in a different
Yeah.
way.
Yeah.
Well, and you could have said like you are two people that are going to have different attitudes or different perspectives,
Yeah.
and they're not
Yes,
going to
definitely.
meet in the middle.
Mhm.
Yeah. Well, to meet in the middle, you both have to do it. That's what it's
Yes,
about.
but if that but
Yeah.
if the card is saying that is not going to happen,
Yeah.
I mean, then you could say, well, you are definitely have two difference of it. You have two opposing views.
Only one's
Yeah.
meeting in the middle, and that's not fair.
No, yeah, for sure.
So what about if you have a like widow or widower? who will come over for the reading, because
Can we
that's
say that again? Sorry.
widow or widower, somebody whose partner passed
A
away.
widow. Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, like those are very difficult questions because, for example, one of the questions I've been asked is my ex-husband around? Is he trying to talk to me, when he passed away?
And is
So,
she
yeah.
so as I guess I would clarify, okay, so she just want to connect with her ex-husband, or does she want to move on from him, from that person? I
Yeah.
mean, there's all different ways of looking at it.
Yeah.
And how recent a widow is that person?
So most
Widower or widower?
Yes, in this case, when I was asked, it was very freshly. It happened
Okay.
just recently. So yes, I don't understand this question because person is alone all of a sudden after many years of marriage, as well living alone. It's a different thing.
Mhm.
And it depends again, I mean, on that relationship. If the person, if they were growing apart before they died or passed on. So that makes a big difference if they were actually, and the age of the person as well. Was this a 40-year relationship and the person died naturally? Or is this a 10-year relationship? Like it makes quite a bit of difference, and the connection that's going to be between that widowed person and her partner, and whether or not they're just looking for, okay, I just want to know how he is, and then whether or not I can feel free to go out and date again or whatever.
Yeah. Most of the times there's a problem of feeling guilty.
Yes.
Yeah. The blame. Okay. Of the person left and I'm out looking for someone else. There's always that. In a way, I think when they ask for a reading, they almost want the permission, as you said, permission or an okay from the cards to say, fine, you can, rebuild your life. You have the permission, you have the okay to, be happy again. I think that's mostly what they're looking for. It's not really, unless they want a message.
Yes. It's a
From
message
the husband. Then that's different. That's a completely different.
And what about divorced people? Do you have many questions from divorced people about their ex-husbands?
It's like an ex, right? Yeah.
I don't mean to sound biased, but as soon as there's an X involved, there's a big red flag. It's like a big red siren. Therein lies half the problem, right?
Well,
So,
and that's it. If there, and I'm divorcee, so it's like a case. You can't move on to someone new if you haven't concluded that relationship, and if you still have anger towards them or whatever, like it's all you're doing is carrying out to the next relationship. So I mean, I would be exploring, okay, so how X is X, and do you have kids between them, because that makes a difference, and is there someone in the wings that you're looking to be involved with? Like those different questions to explore, so that you can, like, clarifying what exactly they're looking for. They want to finalize the X, or are they exploring that X and seeing what they're up to, which
Yeah.
basically says they're not over by any means.
I'm sure many of you been asked the question if is my ex dating somebody else, right?
Yes. Yeah.
oh, there's so many. It's like, or even just two innocent people. Am I going to find somebody? I'm going to the club tonight. Am I going to meet somebody? I mean, I'd go, let's see, and how are we going to do it? And I'm more like trying to help people, so I'm more excited about like how are we going to get you one. So I would like say, forget the X. There's an X there. Therein lies a problem, and blah blah blah. I'd say, let's see how you can get yourself a new one, and sort of try to motivate them that way, and then do a reading on how they can get one. But then it comes up again that the attitude stinks, and then you're like, "Lol, what do I do?"
Yeah.
So it's not easy. It's not easy. So yeah, or sometimes you'll see the person so bubbly, and you're thinking, "Well, why aren't they finding somebody?" And then you can see, either going to the wrong places or things like that,
Mhm.
or
Or they're still connected to an ex.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's always different. So.
Yeah.
Myself, anyway.
But many times people come to the reader with different questions. And in the middle of the reading, literally this question pop in, right? And the person came over, they just want to know if the ex is dating somebody else, what they are up to, because they just literally want to know, but they ask the different question in the beginning. And then they ask, okay, by the way, can I ask this? Right? So it's a very difficult approach because yes, it's a wound. Yeah, putting the salt on the wound, but it depends on the person you are reading for. If they really ready, you have to tell them then if they really want to know.
You reminded me of Paulina, a friend of mine asked me, can you get me one card to see how my boyfriend felt about me blocking him? And I got the Three of Cups. Supposed to say,
Why the teeth now? So what did you tell her? Go on. How did you get yourself out of that one?
oh, I told the truth. I said, well, he's happy. Maybe you were too clingy. Maybe you just called him too often. Maybe you were not giving him enough space because the guy's having a blast.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Those are uncomfortable questions and uncomfortable answers to.
Yes.
I guess I would steer them more towards, okay, rather than looking at your ex, how about we look at what we can do for you? Like what's on, like, let's explore,
Yeah.
Other
what
possibilities.
you need to do for you right now in order to move on from this situation. So it's more healthy. And I would even probably say that this will be more healthy than exploring a past that's done.
But sometimes it's really tricky because people insist on that question, right? It's very tricky. What about if you have somebody who comes for the reading and they will keep asking the same question? Is my ex coming back? For example, or is my husband coming back? And they keep asking the same question. Like every month they book a reading and they ask the question, how would you approach that as well?
I would say you've already asked me this question. Why are you asking again? Has something changed? And they would say, I don't
Something's
know.
changed. Good question. Yeah.
And then they would say no. And I'll go, well,
Yeah. Some people said, I think setting 6 months for a repeat on the same question is a good idea because as Greg said, things change. But I think, 2 weeks is not enough. A month is not. I think 6 months is enough to see if, the scenario is a bit different and if things can actually change.
because I'm a great advocate of believing that you can change things, which is for a discussion for another podcast. But you can do a reading and not like the answer, and you can go, I don't like that, and you can actually change that. So you can have a reading, and in a couple of weeks, it's going to be different. That's why I asked, did something happen? Did something change? Because maybe she didn't like the answer I gave her a couple of weeks ago and done something that could have made cause and effect. And so now the ball could have got rolling. That's why I asked, did something change or something happen?
Yeah, and I might even be inclined to ask them, have you gone to other readers? And they may or may not ask that or answer that, but it's like, I'd say, if you've gone to other readers and you've gotten the same answer I've already given you, then I would trust those answers, because especially if they're saying no or that person has moved on, I said, then let's explore how you can move on. So I put it back into let's do something positive for you.
Yes.
Yeah, because like we've mentioned at different times, like, that they may be looking at a married person, for example. And so they already know this is the person I'm looking for. And there are people that do that. So it's clarifying. I find it would be clarifying, at least for them to answer the question and say, okay, then let's explore how you're going to meet that type of person.
Yeah. So if the person is doing reading for themselves, right?
Okay,
Would
I
you
was
get-
wondering what type of questions would they want to ask themselves? Yeah, this is something to, why, let's say, why uh doesn't my crush love me? I was
Uh,
not trying to figure out what question a person alone reading, working with the tarot for the first time or experiencing tarot, but would ask for themselves, by themselves. Like
I think
they would have if I have a teenager, she probably would say, why doesn't, I don't know, Kevin or call me, or just simple things. Yeah.
Yes.
So you see, so I think the question is, what can I do meet the person,
Mhm.
right? What cards will tell me, what can I do? Shall I go to the museum? Shall I go, I don't know, to the party, or shall I sign up to the dating app? Sometimes it could appear.
So yeah, so you would ask how. That would be how.
Yes,
Mhm.
I mean,
How could I be more interesting for such and such?
yes.
Yeah.
Or
What can I
Where
do?
could I meet them?
Yeah,
could
what
you
can I do?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who, what, where?
Yes, who would where? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And it could give you indication, and now okay, I can't refuse my party invites. I have to go out. So I, for example, have to go to the exhibition because many people might have exhibition, or even the game, football game. So
And I also I and I know this is what happens when I read. Like if I'm really anxious inside about something, finding out an answer, this is where I find that I may not see the cards with clarity. So this is when I
think,
I ask others to read for me.
Yeah.
But that's I just want to say that if your emotions are tied to the cards, you may not like what you're seeing or understand it. It's a blockage that you could be putting on yourself.
I agree. Reading for yourself is really tough.
yes,
I think if you're starting with tarot, reading for yourself, you invariably you're going to be either extra positive or extra negative.
yeah.
Biased. Way too biased.
Way too biased. Yeah.
Way too negative or way too
And
positive.
sometimes I don't like the answer that I get, and then I sulk. Or sometimes I like the answer I get, then I get too complacent.
Uh-huh.
I don't like it. I mean, after a few years, it gets a little bit easier, but still,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll just ask a friend. I'll ask maybe one of you guys or something.
Yes, but I think the question, for example, how you can meet somebody could be
That's where and
Yeah,
how.
but that's that's a that's not like a self-reflection thing, is it?
Yeah. But I could see the question, like if I had my eyes on someone and I'm really like we're saying we're coming up to a real special time, and I'm thinking, oh, I'm so anxiety driven, like are they going to ask me out? And there may be, in all truth, there could be a very valid reason that they don't ask me out. They're going out on a trip for business or something, or they're involved with someone else, obviously. But if my emotions are tied to it, I'm not going to necessarily interpret those cards correctly. Yeah, it's almost harder to have a bias because I know if a good friend asks me, okay, if they're interested in someone, and I see the cards and it's like, well, this is not going to happen, and now I've got to tell them, and they're going to look at, well, this is, and if I have an opinion of that other person, if I happen to know them, they may be pinning my answer on my own personal connections. So that's what I find as a reader is hard, is that even though I want to give them an honest reading, they may not appreciate what I'm trying to say to them. They may fear I don't have a bias opinion.
not so true.
The messages can be quite subtle, and I think my emotion overpowers the subtle message. That's why I prefer reading for strangers or just getting enough information that I need for the question. Yeah, and that's how I do it. 'Cause emotionally, it's. I mean, even if I had to do a reading for one of you guys, and I was seeing the stuff I didn't like, I'd find it hard to tell you, and I would have a subconscious resistance to bad news.
Hmm. Well, especially with romance, and that's what we're talking about here. Is romance is tough. I don't like. I find it challenging because it's emotionally charged for the client,
Yeah.
which and you're also on that expectation of giving them good news, or they want to hear good news.
So shall we continue next week with relationship questions for you, Valentine?
Excited.
Yeah.
So we will see you next week with Sophie. Come.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening. Please like, subscribe, and follow us. And feel free to leave a comment.